Kids don't forget.
Kids don't forget.
You kids don't forget.
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 Kids don't forget. Kids don't forget.
Keenan, what's up? How are you?
Coolin', bro. How you been?
Man, I'm happy that you're here. Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay. So let's get started. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes.
Has your name ever been mispronounced?
No.
Nah.
Misspelled, but not mispronounced.
How is it spelled?
Keenan.
How's it been misspelled?
Kenan, Kenin.
But for the most part, it's been pronounced correctly.
Yes.
So that wasn't something that plagued you growing up?
No, not at all.
Okay. What were some of your nicknames growing up?
K-Dog, Keen Bean, and later on, Kenobi and Skrilla.
All right, so let's start with K-Dog. Who called you K-Dog?
Family and friends from around my neighborhood.
Okay. And who called you Keen Bean?
Same
thing?
Same.
Okay.
Keen Bean was more close-knit family.
Okay.
Than family and friends. But once I got like kind of older, like I want to say like around 11, 12, that's when Keen Bean turned into K-Dog.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I guess you could say Snoop Dogg era.
Got it. So if you were like in Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now, where you don't know anybody, well, I don't know who you know, but let's assume you don't know anybody from Milwaukee and you're in Milwaukee, you heard somebody say, yo, K-Dog.
I'm definitely going to turn like, woo, somebody definitely knows me.
And you got an idea where they know you from and
Guaranteed.
who it is. Okay.
Guaranteed.
Got it. And the last one you said was Skrilla?
Skrilla.
Okay, where'd you get that?
My cousin gave one of my main favorite cousins.
Okay.
Closest cousins.
Got it.
Gave me that name.
You want to give him a shout out?
Poppy.
Shout out to Poppy. So where are you from?
I'm from downtown Camden, New Jersey.
Downtown Camden, New Jersey. Okay. And do you claim a specific block?
Bering Street.
Okay. What was your neighborhood like growing up?
It changed. It as far as I can remember, when I was smaller, younger, there were a lot more businesses, and it was a close-knit community type block. And then as I got older, it got a lot bit more worse.
Okay.
As far as like drug trafficking, prostitution, shootings, stuff like that.
Okay. Would you raise your kids on Bering Street?
I would raise my kids in the era that I was raised. Yes, I'll raise them. In this era, no.
Okay, what's the difference? Oh, what you just said.
Right.
That's
the difference. And it's changed dramatically more worse than it was back then when it was bad.
Okay.
It's even worse now. It's actually like Bering Street is basically like a ghost of its former self.
It's probably people who lived there 20 years before you did who's like, yo, Bering Street got bad. Which was normal bad to you, but now it's even the next level.
Right. Absolutely.
Got it. So Camden, period. Like for you growing up, what was your experience like?
Like I said, it's the same as growing up in Bering. It was good growing up, and then it progressively got worse.
Okay. Did you have a lot of problems?
No, not per se. Not a lot of problems, no.
Okay, that's interesting. So with that being said, were you an only child?
For at least the first 6 years, yes.
Okay.
And then my mother had my little sister.
Okay.
And then after that, it came my two younger brothers, and they are a year apart. And then I have another younger sister. She's about maybe 23 now, 22, 23 now. And then when I was 20, my father had 3 boys.
Okay. Wow. So you have siblings, but you really didn't grow up with anybody.
Cousins.
Right.
Cousins for the first, I guess you could say 6 to 7 years. Actually, even more than that because my sister was a baby.
Right.
So my siblings at that time was my cousins.
Okay. What was that like growing up?
It was cool. It was kind of hard though because you still didn't have that brother, that sibling,
Right.
brother or sister. You just didn't have that sibling to be home with you or play with. So it always basically depends. Your playing partners were my cousins or the kids that lived on the block.
Okay. Interesting. So with that being said, you did not grow up with both parents.
No.
Okay. So did you live with your mom or your dad?
For the first 12 to 13 years, I lived with my mother.
Okay.
The end of the 12 to 13 years, I was transitioning between the two of them. And then once I became 13, I moved with my father and lived with my father since then.
What was the difference in between living with your mom and living with your dad?
My mom was very lax, and I was her baby. I was her firstborn, so she always says I grew up with her.
Right.
Whereas my father was very strict.
Okay.
He was very strict.
Okay. So you went from two different worlds.
Yeah.
From living with your mom to. Do you remember how that happened? How'd you get to living with your dad?
Well, when I was about 12 or 13, maybe it might even be as early as 11.
Okay.
My mother got on drugs, and
Sorry to hear that.
it got kind of bad. So my father felt as though he had to get me out of that environment.
Now, was this the height of the crack epidemic?
I guess you could say that 93, 94. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
About the-
Right.
about the
Started
height
in
of
like the mid '80s and ravaged on through the '90s.
it. Right.
Okay. So, with that being said, what was your relationship like with each of them? So you can start with either your mom or your dad. What would you say growing up that your relationship was like?
My relationship with my mom was like my mom. Even to this day, my mom is my best friend.
What's her name?
Patricia
Shout
Williams.
out to Miss Patricia.
Miss Patty, actually.
Oh, Miss Patty. So I would
That's
say
what
Miss
she
Patty.
called.
Okay, Miss Patty. Okay.
But she was she's my best friend now, and even back then, she was my end all be all.
Okay.
Anything. She was my world, my son, everything.
So if you left her to go live with your dad, that must have shot you for a loop.
Oh yeah, I was definitely hurt, upset.
Okay.
Just everything, because no matter, even though she was on drugs,
Right.
I saw that, but that didn't matter to me because she was still my mom, and I felt as though it was my job, even though I was the child. I felt it was my job to make sure my mom was good.
Okay.
So I did not like having to move with my father.
Yo, I've interviewed a lot of people now who are like, yo, if I would have left my dad, he might have self-destructed, like left him by myself. Or I felt like I had to be the perfect child because my mom's other kids were wilding. So I needed to be the one to make sure she doesn't lose it. It's crazy how, and a lot of times, and some people I've interviewed said, I was the parent. I literally was the parent. My parents were kids.
Right?
So, like, it's interesting to hear, like, looking back, adults say, like, I had to protect my parent.
Right.
And it's crazy because parents are people.
Yeah.
And they wind up having kids while they're still dealing with their stuff.
And growing and learning.
They're growing and learning. They're dealing with their inner demons. And in a lot of cases, they're still dealing with their childhoods.
Yeah.
So we got a generation of kids having kids. And we have a generation of adults having kids who are not quite figured out who they are or adulthood yet.
Yeah.
Yo, so that's interesting.
That's the main reason my mom told me that, like, it messes her up to this day if I remember like a song that's from her childhood, but
Okay.
I only remember it because, Mom, you played it
Right.
like 1,000 times in the house.
Right.
So I automatically just associate that with you. So I know that's like,
Right.
it could be something like Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
And I hear, and she, what do you know about that? Mom, I learned it from you. What do you mean? Like,
Right. Now, what was your relationship like with your pops? What's your pops' name?
Chris Britt.
Shout out to Mr. Chris.
Yeah, he's my relationship with him was we butted heads a lot.
Okay.
We really butted heads a lot. I think mainly because he just wanted better for me, and I don't know. I just thought that he was mainly into his wife,
Okay.
and not that he didn't care about me. I knew he loved me unconditionally,
Right.
but I just he was just a little too strict for me.
Okay.
And I guess that was me being a kid, because
Right.
looking back now, I am so thankful for him being that strict on me, because without his guidance and him being that strict, ain't no telling what I could have been or become or where I would have been.
Okay. Okay. So real quick, do you remember how it happened that you wound up living with your dad?
Yes.
Okay.
He and two of my mother's friends, they orchestrated.
They were in cahoots?
Yeah, they was in cahoots. They orchestrated this plan to get me out of my mom's house. I went over one of my mom's friend's house to spend the weekend, and the next morning, or the next night actually, because I remember they went to Temple. Remember Temple on Mount Ephraim?
Okay. The pizza store?
The pizza store. They went to Temple, got me a fish hoagie. That was one of my favorite sandwiches growing up.
Okay.
And he actually put me on to that sandwich. But they went to Temple, got me a fish sandwich. We came back. My dad was at my mom's friend's house. And he
Wait. So this is two of your mom's girlfriends.
Two of my mom's
They came
best
to
friends.
pick you up.
Yes.
When y'all say they took you out to get you something to eat.
They took me to spend the night over their house because they had kids that were around
So
my
the premise
age.
was that you was going to stay there for the weekend.
Right.
You get there and your pops is there.
Right.
Which was unusual or usual?
Very unusual.
Unusual,
Very
right? These your mom's girlfriends.
Right. Even though one of them knew my father very well. My Aunt Shirley.
Okay.
She knew my dad very well because they all grew up in the same hood downtown.
Okay.
So
so your dad's from downtown too?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
My mom and dad both
Okay.
from downtown.
Okay.
And they knew each other, so even though he knew one of them, the ones whose house I was over, that was like, well, what are you doing
Instant
here? Like,
red flag. Like, what's
yeah,
my
like, wait
dad
a
doing
minute.
here? Right.
Am I about to get a beating? wait, what did I do?
Right.
And he was there to pick me up, and he told me, then you're going to come live with me.
Wow. So you didn't even really get a chance to say goodbye to your mom?
Not until, he did allow me to call her.
Okay.
He did allow me to call her and let her know that I was going to be with him. And, I was crying and I don't want to go. But I think at the end of the day, my mom knew it was best for me.
Well, was she available to you? Like every time you called her, she was there?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she wasn't like one of the bad, like we hear about parents who, I don't even know
No.
what my mom was.
No.
She was always home.
She was definitely always home.
Okay. You ultimately became a parent.
Yes.
How many beautiful blessings do you have?
Just one.
Just one.
Just
Okay.
one.
How old?
She's 17. She'll actually be turning 18 on the 20th of May.
Wow. So you got an 18-year-old daughter.
Yeah. Man.
You had her when you were
23.
Okay. So she's, according to the law, about to be an adult. Let me ask you this question. You know how your parents raised you because you were there. What would you say are some similarities and differences between your parenting style and your parents' parenting styles?
I'm not as strict as my father on certain things, except the only thing I'm very adamant on with her is school.
Okay.
As long as I told her a long time ago, as long as you do good in school, you can get anything you want from me.
Define doing good. If she came home with all C's, would you be mad?
Yes.
Okay.
Only because I know she could do better.
Okay.
Now, if she came home with all C's and she was doing her hardest
Her absolute best?
and putting forth effort, I couldn't be mad at that at all.
Okay.
But if I know she can do better, it's gonna be trouble.
Okay. So you want her to at least a 3.0.
Whatever she that I know she's capable of,
Okay.
do your best to fit that.
Got it. So you take school seriously like your parents did?
Yes.
Okay. So that, and you're not as strict as your dad was.
No.
Define. Like what was your dad on you about that you're not really on her about? Example.
Well, mainly, like I may talk stern to her
Okay.
if she messes up in school or anything, but
Okay.
I'm not going. I can to this day say I have never had to beat my daughter
Okay. Ever. Compared to hundreds of beatings.
Ooh.
Right.
With a belt.
Right.
With a belt.
Right.
That's back. That's back in our day. You could beat kids with a belt. Nowadays, you're gonna get the cops called on you.
Right. What about your mom?
As far as parenting,
Similarities and differences.
I'm very, very just as my mom is very was very lenient on me because I was her first.
Okay.
I kind of got a soft spot for her because she's my first and only at this time. So
Okay. So she's super spoiled.
yeah, yeah. She can call me right now, and as long as her grades, I know her grades is good now. So,
Right.
Dad, can I have this? All right, cash app it to you, or when I get out of here, I'll bring it to you.
Can you see her? It's hard to speak for other people, but can you see her growing up in your era and doing well?
No. This era of children are way too privileged.
Okay, let's talk
way
about
too
that for a second.
They
She doesn't know how to struggle.
no, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. No. If she had to go through what I had to go through, like not being able to eat, well, not having meals available to you at all times, not having a DoorDash, stuff like that.
Right.
She'd go crazy.
These kids are heavily dependent on technology.
Oh,
that
yeah.
didn't exist in the 90s.
We didn't know. We barely even was on computers. I mean,
Internet was just starting in the
Right.
late 90s.
right. And I remember you and I were in, what was it, in Hatch Logo?
Yeah, right.
It was in a logo in a technology class, and we were like, for lack of a better term, we were considered like the nerds
Right.
because we were in the computers and things of that nature.
The smart kids, the top section.
Nowadays, everyone's a nerd,
Right.
and nerd, the word itself is cool.
Exactly.
That's a cool
Like
thing.
everybody embracing it. You get it on your shirt, says nerd. Got it. So speaking of school, do you remember all the schools you went to growing up?